Welcome back to the channel, and today we are doing another edition of the 1967 Topps High Series cards. And today we are going to be going over none other than J.C. Martin, pictured here with the Chicago White Sox. This card, you can tell, has an obvious stain on there. If it's not pretty obvious, at some point some liquid probably got dripped on it. This card itself is part of a card that's short printed within this high series too, so it is a little bit more difficult to be able to find. It's probably going to cost you, so probably on this low end, probably about a $15 card, and it's going to be obviously going up from there if you get cards that are in better condition. So not terribly uncommon with cards in the 67 high series where you see some of these SPs even in bad condition starting out about $10–15 a piece. J.C. Martin himself is still with us. He was born in 1936 in Exton, Virginia. For the White Sox, he started his career in 1959 with them. He featured with the team for a couple games during the 59 season, but he came up too late to be considered for the postseason roster, so he did not join the team for the World Series when they lost to Los Angeles. Spent most of his career with the White Sox, but then moved on to the New York Mets and was lucky enough to be part of the World Series team in 1969 before he kind of wrapped up his career for 3 more seasons with the Chicago Cubs. So he came back to the Chicagoland area to wrap things up. When he first brought up, he was actually a first baseman and third baseman that became a converted catcher because he had a lot of tutelage in the minor leagues, both from former White Sox All-Star catcher Sherm Lawler at that time was kind of like then help coaching him, learning how to be able to become a catcher. They thought they had a better place for him on the roster of being a backup catcher, and for a brief time was the primary catcher for them. And also by future manager Al Lopez, was also kind of working with him a little bit in the minor leagues before he actually became on to be the manager for the White Sox as well, during that brief period of time where Lopez was between the Indians and the Chicago White Sox. Martin himself was not a proficient hitter whatsoever. His career average was just .222. He only had 487 hits in his career, drove in 230 RBIs in 908 games that he played in. Probably one of his more notable records, which was later broken in '87, was set in 1965 at a time where he was kind of more of the primary catcher for the White Sox when he set a major league record for passed balls during a season, but that time he was catching 2 knuckleball pitchers, which are difficult enough to be able to catch, which is part of the reason somewhat the knuckleball has kind of been phased out of baseball, because it's so unreliable for the catchers to be able to get, that it was giving his, obviously sabermetrically an advantage to the offense at times. So that's why you don't see it, even though a lot of these guys can still throw it. But it was Hoyt Wilhelm was the primary knuckleballer, and there was one other one on the roster too that threw knuckleballs, and so that was part of the struggle at that time, was being able to always catch those balls reliably, and that's why he set that record at that time. He also caught the no-hitter from Joe Horland in 1967 when he was part of that pennant race where it was Detroit, Boston, and Chicago that were pretty close. Unfortunately, Chicago just, even though they had a league-leading ERA and a lot of good pitching on that team, just couldn't hit. And that was kind of their downfall towards the end of the season, as they just couldn't plate runs when they needed to and fell out of line with Detroit and Boston, who kind of played later on into that season for the title. Probably one of the things that people kind of remember him most for in the hobby was being part of the 1961 Topps All-Star Rookie team. So you can see that pictured on his 1962 Topps card. He's got one of those All-Star Rookie cups. He also has like a rookie designation or a rookie star or something like that. I can't remember on the 61 set where it's kind of featured up in the corner. Well, actually, I'm looking at one right now. It says 1961 rookie. He's got one of those cards that's in there. One of the things of note as a player, during the 1969 World Series, he was part of a pretty controversial play. At the ended Game 4 that the Mets were able to win, he hit a bunt or a soft liner down the first base line, if I'm not mistaken, that was fielded by the first baseman, and was fielded by the pitcher, actually, was they're trying to throw to first base to be able to catch him. He got hit by the ball, and the Baltimore Orioles alleged that he was out of the baseline when that occurred. So it actually resulted in Major League Baseball adding that secondary line that we see today down the first base line to kind of represent the base path that the runner should be staying in when they're trying to run to first base. But obviously that call wasn't overturned because there wasn't instant replay to be able to challenge, or challenges like they have now. So the call stood, which was an error at that point that allowed him to get to first base, which allowed the winning run to be able to cross the plate then. Following his career, actually, I can't find a lot of stuff following his career now. I'm looking up some of his personal history, but I know he's still with it. The only thing I did kind of see about his post-career was that he was part of the broadcast team with Harry Carey of the White Sox games before Harry Carey then later joined the Chicago Cubs. So he was a broadcaster along with Harry Carey for that brief period of time where Harry Carey came over from the Cardinals and was calling Chicago White Sox games while Bill Veeck was owning the team for a second time. But that was about the extent of J.C. Martin. Again, he is still with us. It looks like he signs a lot of autographs. I did look up a lot of his stuff, and you can find a lot of cheap autographed cards if you want to. This is by far the most expensive card of his and that you're going to be able to look up and find, especially in higher grade. Maybe the 62 in really nice grade because of the wood borders kind of make it a little bit more difficult and challenge some of the prices you might see in 67. But there he is. There's J.C. Martin pictured there, probably in spring training with the White Sox. On the back, this card's gotten a little bit faded, I think, as a result of getting exposed to some liquid on the back. You can see a kind of a lengthy minor league career there where he kind of bounced between the minors and majors for some time before he became an established major leaguer, albeit primarily a backup catcher for the White Sox, with the exception of about 2 seasons. So there he is, J.C. Martin. I'll be back next month. I think we are on card number 538, so I'll be back with 539 next month, and I will see you again soon.